Hi everyone, in this video I am going to go over how to complete exercise 2-26A, which you're going to compute the cost of goods manufactured and the cost of goods sold. And I'm also going to explain how to compute exercise 2-27A. Alright, so look at the board over here. Alright, so before I begin, this is again the process to figure out all these different areas. Okay, so you have raw materials, which goes to work in process, which goes to finished goods, and then finally you're going to sell them. So in between these areas, you're going to figure out schedules. So in between raw materials and work in process, you're going to figure out direct materials used. In between work in process and finished goods, you will figure out cost of goods manufactured. So the cost of goods manufactured will be the cost of those products manufactured to finished goods. Okay? Then they sit in finished goods until they're sold. When they're sold, at that time you will figure out cost of goods sold. All right? I'm going to label it COGS, but that stands for cost of goods sold. So make sure you understand there's a difference between cost of goods manufactured and cost of goods sold. Okay? All right, so now let's go through how to complete this problem. Let's erase all this good stuff. All right, so let's go back to the practice problem. And again, I'm working right from your textbook. I'm going to go over how to complete exercise 2-26A. The first thing that we will complete is cost of goods manufactured. All right, so one more time, what are product costs? Direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. Look, a lot of times I'll refer to it as just overhead. It's the same thing. All right, so the first item that we will complete is we got to figure out direct materials used. So in a prior video, I showed you how to figure that out. All right? Okay, so we're looking at direct materials used. Okay, so what do I need in order to figure out direct materials used? I need beginning raw materials. So that's what they began the period with. Beginning raw materials is 23,000. Okay, next I'm going to add purchases of raw materials. Okay, so purchases of raw materials, and that's 74,000. Next, I will figure out, just add those two, and that will give me my materials available for sale, okay, which is 97,000. It must be just a solely U.S. company because I don't have any tariffs or any international duty charges. Okay, so I add those two together. Then I'm going to subtract less ending raw materials. And that is 25,000, and I subtract that. Finally, that's going to give me direct materials used. All right, so I'm going to need that number, 72,000. Kind of jot that in your notes. The next thing that I'm going to go over, remember that 72, I'm going to erase. So now we have direct materials used, that's 72,000. Next, we're going to figure out how to complete cost of goods manufactured. Okay, so we will start with beginning work in process. I'm going to make my life easy. I'm going to call it WIP. When you work in the lab, you'll have the drop-down window. Beginning work in process. 35,000. Okay, that's a dollar figure. Next, I am going to add in my manufactured costs. Incurred. Okay? All right, so I got direct materials used. That's when I just input my 72,000. Next item, direct labor. That's given to me right in the problem. Direct labor, 86,000. All right, next item, manufacturing overhead. I'm going to go back to your problem. I want you to look with me. Okay, so we want to isolate the items that will relate to manufacturing overhead. First item I see is indirect labor. That's manufacturing overhead. So kind of jot that down. Insurance on plant. I look for the name plant or factory. That's going to be manufacturing overhead. Depreciation, plant, building, and equipment. I see the word plant or factory. That's going to be overhead, 13,400. Repairs and maintenance on the plant. Yes, that's going to be manufacturing overhead. Marketing expenses. No, that's a period cost that will expensed immediately. General and administrative expenses. Nope, that's a period cost that will be expensed immediately. I'll use that when I explain the next part of it. Okay, so I only want manufacturing overhead. I am going to add 42,000 plus 11,500 plus 13,400 plus the repairs and maintenance of 3,700 on the plant. So my manufacturing overhead, I'm going to abbreviate it. You won't for the lab. You'll pick the manufacturing overhead drop-down window, which is 70,600. Okay? Now I'm going to total those numbers. So the total manufacturing cost to account for I'm going to add the 35 plus the 72 plus the 86 plus the 70,600. That gives me 263,600. Next, I'm going to subtract my ending work in process. This is my ending work in process. This is what's still left in work in process. I'm trying to figure out the cost of goods manufactured. How much of those I have completed. So I subtract that. Okay. And I'm going to back into cost of goods manufactured. And that will give me 232,600. 232,600. Okay, so that's my answer to cost of goods manufactured. The next part of this problem also asks me to compute cost of goods sold. So I'm going to erase. Now I'm trying to figure out the cost of the products that have been sold. So they were in finished goods and now they have been sold. So now I want to go to my finished goods piece. I look at the problem. All right, so I want only to isolate the items that relate to finished goods. So I start with my beginning finished goods. And that is 20,000. Next, I add my cost of goods manufactured. And that came from my last schedule, 232,600. 232,600. Now that gives me my cost of goods available for sale. Cost of goods available for sale. Those two numbers together are 252,600. So these sit in inventory or finished goods until the company sells them. Now I'm going to subtract out my ending finished goods. So some of these goods have been sold. You're trying to figure out how many. So you subtract out your ending finished goods. Make sure you're clear. Ending is what you subtract. Now I figure out my COGS. Cost of goods sold is 230,600. I'm going to need that for the next part of this homework. Okay, so the next part is going to ask you to complete an income statement. All right, so you need the cost of goods sold. All right, so everybody remembers what's on an income statement. So I'm going to go here. I want to go back to the problem. All right, remember an income statement. So I erase. This is a manufacturing company. So you're going to figure out gross profit. How do you figure out gross profit? Sales minus cost of goods sold. Okay, so we look at the problem. Here's what it tells you. So the lab will be different, of course. They will change the numbers. So they sold 34,000 units at $12 each. That's going to be my revenue. I'm going to take 34,000, multiply that by 12. My first account, sales revenue, is 408,000. My cost of goods sold, less, of course, the lab, you'll have the drop-down window. I'm abbreviating. Okay, so your cost of goods sold will come from your prior problem we just worked on, which is 230,600. That's your cost of goods sold, not cost of goods manufactured. Remember, two different numbers, right? So cost of goods sold. Now, we're going to figure out gross profit, which is 177,400. Okay? Now, I go back to the problem and I look, what else did they have? Okay, they had marketing expenses and they had general administrative expenses. Okay, so those will be under your operating expenses. So you're going to have less operating expenses. We have marketing expenses. And that is 77,000. And then we have general and administrative, general and admin. Okay? And those are 28,500. I have total operating expenses. I'm running out of room. This happens to me a lot, just so you know. My total operating expenses, I'm only adding operating expenses. That is 105,500. And then I finally come down to my operating income. Okay, operating income is going to be 177,400 minus 105,500, my operating expenses, which gives me 71,500. 71,900. Okay, so your operating income is 71,900. Okay? All right, so that's how you complete those two problems. Get right in the lab. Well, actually practice it from your textbook first. Well, you did when you watched the video. And then get right in the lab. Okay? So get that homework done, and I'll see you soon.